All right, welcome to podcast number 2. We are back from Honduras. Just got back to the house. We had an awesome time. We were there for 8 days. We flew into San Pedro Sula, drove up to the mountains in La Esperanza and Gemma and Gila. Worked with a team there from Houston that were in town already. Did a couple days of medical brigade. Went to the hospital and ministered to the people that were there and the kids, and prayed with people and hand out stuffed animals and clothes and just anything you can think of on that front. Then went back down the mountain, went to San Pedro Sula, met up with missionary Ken Harrell and his family. Went down into the slums and really rough areas there, down by the river. Then you got to speak at a church in the middle of, basically the middle of gang territory, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. So we had a really awesome time, and now we're back going to do our post-Honduras podcast. So I guess the basic question to start off with, I'm joined here again with J.C. Seward, pastor of Gospel Lighthouse Church in Blytheville, Arkansas, who came on this trip with me. It was his first time out of the country, first missions trip, international missions trip. And on our first podcast, we went over kind of the thoughts in your head and your expectations, and just just whatever was going through your mind, never having been out of the country and on a mission trip before. So now we're back.
Right.
So what are some things that hit
well, probably
brush your mind?
Probably the best way to start this, begin with, just want to say, traveling with Brandon, Heart Tongue Productions was amazing. And if there's anybody listening and interested in doing some missions work and don't know where really to start, get with Heart Tongue Productions, and Brandon will lead you. And it's just an awesome time. I guess probably the first thing that I would want to begin with is with what Brother Dean Lohman made a comment our last night in for his team, which would have been I guess it had been Friday night. And he made a comment during our debrief, and he said, people are going to ask you about your trip, so be prepared with a response. And he said, try to give a response at least within 30 seconds of what you were doing and what you did and such. And so my response basically was, I had the opportunity to go to Honduras and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with the people there in Honduras, and to be a part of a medical brigade, not only bring healing, physical healing to Hondurans, but also spiritual healing as well. And to, see what life is like in Honduras. And that would be kind of my opening statement, but the in-between, the dynamics that were all included in that, from day one to the end, to even our flight home. There was so much, to share, and I could get into every detail, and I could tell you every little thing that happened, but basically for me, it took me, and it's still taking me, I know from the first, when we landed on the plane, and we got in the vehicle with Brother Harry and drove through the city, I was definitely out of my comfort zone. I know traffic was incredible. Life was moving so fast, yet it was heartbreaking in some sense to me, because I wasn't prepared for the people on the side of the road, the children standing on the side of the road while traffic is moving at 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and knowing that just 2 more inches, a child could get run over. It's just, things were like, to me, it was just happened so fast, and you're thrown into the city and you see the city life. And
they weren't out there just standing. They were selling stuff,
they were
begging.
Selling, absolutely. And that was
anything.
Yeah, and that, when you came into San Pedro Sula, is that right?
Yeah.
That was, to me, and I don't want to say cultural shock, because I don't want anything to be negative in this. I want everything to be positive. And sometimes people think culture shock comes across like a negative connotation, because you come from a United States of America and you go to a third world country, and they start putting so much emphasis on culture shock, and I don't want to do that, because people are valuable, and that's what I came into with. I came into Honduras with this mindset. Regardless of where people are at, if they're in Honduras, if they're in Malawi, Africa, people are valuable, so valuable to God that Jesus died on the cross for them. That's how valuable people are.
Right.
So I kept that in my mind. So I came prepared with that. But even though you feel like you're prepared, you feel like you're just ready to win the world, then all of a sudden reality sets in, and you see the reality of these little children and the homeless men and the you said 17 people on the back of a small Chevy Love pickup truck,
right,
just trying to get a ride away from the city into the mountains, back home, or wherever they were headed.
Or into the city. I mean, just anywhere, anything to get food on the table. I mean, if you don't work, you don't eat. I mean, that's
right.
That simple.
And I don't want people to think that I'm devaluing their lifestyle, because I'm not. This is life. This is how you live in Honduras.
Yeah.
And one of the things I could say about the Honduras people is they're beautiful people, and they love, and they're happy. Mostly, the people that I've met, very nice and very kind, and they appreciate help. They appreciate the interaction with missionaries. Many of them did. I rarely the people that we had came across with, rarely did I feel anything negative. I never felt an attitude. Like if you're here in the States and you talk to somebody about the gospel, people's first their first response is, "What, do you think you're better than me? Who do you think you are?"
Right.
I know God. I go to church. It wasn't like that there. I didn't see that, and so that was very a blessing to me. The first day, well, let me just do this, Brandon. Let me divide this into two parts.
Yeah.
The first part is the ministry to the Hondurans. The second part is interaction with a new team.
Okay.
And that is something that I think every pastor, every evangelist, every minister, a missions team needs to realize, that there's got to be a buffer zone for people to gel, for people to interact, because you and I came to a new team. You knew the Lomans, you knew them ahead of time. You knew Brother Soft. You knew, of course, Harry Indiana and his family, but there were some that you didn't know.
Right, the team from Houston we just met when we
wonderful people. But they are people from another church, and you got to make that gel. You got to make that what's the good word? Cohesiveness.
Yeah, sure.
The cohesiveness of that team has to come together. It has to fit right, because if it doesn't, then you're going to have personality friction. You're going to have all this that's going to go on, and it's not going to be healthy. And I'm going to tell you something. That's where you were talking about flexibility. Mm-hmm. Not only flexibility in the physical senses, trying to keep things in time management, but the flexibility in the emotional sense, and understanding people and saying, "Hey, wow, this person has really got a personality," and I'm saying that in a positive way.
Right.
And I may not be as outgoing as that person, and how do I handle that?
Yeah, or even their reactions to what they're seeing. They're dealing with everything they're taking in their senses.
Yes.
So everybody is just all taken individually and as a group. So
that's the part B of it. That's probably one of the most crucial parts, because like I had said all week long, I said I'm not out of my element. I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm not out of my element. And what I mean by that is that my element is ministry.
Yeah.
Meeting needs with love. I'm not out of my element. That's what I do at home. I do that every day. But I was out of my comfort zone. Meeting a new team, meeting new people. Maybe you have competition. Maybe there's There's, people that want the attention and want, you have to deal with those things. And those are very important issues in any team. You guys, I know you understand that.
Yeah.
And I want people to see that, how crucial it is that the team has to be in unity. And the team has to work together and be flexible and love one another and be understanding, especially when you are in another country.
Right.
It's one thing to be here in the States, because you can go to your house and then you can say whatever you want to say behind the pastor's back and the team's back. But when you're in another country, you don't have that option.
And you might be living with everybody.
That's right. There you go.
Yep.
You may be using the hot water in the same bathroom every day.
Right.
And that's what happened to us. You know? And so those were some very important details, I think, that was helpful for me. The part A of it is my eyes being open to the reality of what's going on in these third world countries.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I know there's one story in particular
the first story, and let me just also say that to begin with, I'm still processing, and Brendan understands this because this is his 23rd. How many mission trips have you had? I don't know.
But I've been to Honduras eight times.
So this is like his
20 some odd countries.
Yeah, so he understands this. To me, I didn't get this. And it's going to take me more than just a week to process everything that I have been through. I kept a journal, and I've done everything I know what to do. But I'm telling you, it's going to take me a long time to really process this. It's going to take me probably till my next time I come back to Honduras to really grab hold of what God has done in my life, because He has challenged me in so many areas. I told you in our first podcast, I'd already had an idea what God was going to be putting His finger on, and I was absolutely right. But I was not prepared, and there's nothing that can prepare you.
You never know exactly how it's going to lay out. So let me kind of set it up for the people at home, because we started off with eating our own words about flexibility, because we were flying on standby because of my job, and first day we get up there, we have enough seats, so we're like pumped and ready to go, and the pilot's like, hey, we have a lot of cargo, we have to leave 5 seats empty, and so no standbys are going. So we get to do the dreaded walk out of the airport and stand here in Atlanta for another day going, what in the world is happening? We got a plan B already. We have not even left the country.
Right.
So yeah, that was fun. It was like God, I can just see God's sense of humor just looking down like, oh yeah, flexibility, right? Well, let's wait another day for you guys.
I know it's frustrating for you, but for me, I just took it as stride because it's my first time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I guess it happens all the time. It's like our landing in San Pedro.
Yeah, we did pretty hard.
Crash landing.
Yeah.
I told the pilot, I said, oh, I would have never known any different. I thought you land like that all the time.
Yeah.
As much as I fly. So.
Yeah, the pilot actually apologized because he was like, that's probably my roughest landing.
All I thought was those poor people in the back.
Oh, I know.
we were the front 2 rows.
We got lucky and actually got first class. Yeah, blessed. Yeah. So our smack down was a little bit more cushioned to the back, at least.
I had this voice said, "Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back."
So so that was interesting. Right off the bat, God was like, you just think you think you're gonna got it planned out and figured out.
Right.
And pretty much all week went that way, so that was interesting.
This is what I got to say, too. Danger is a perspective. And the Bible says, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and are safe. Right. So, sachab, safety, Hebrew word, means exalted above captivity. So, danger is a perspective. And I got the backlash because I had mentioned that San Pedro Sula, is that right?
Yeah.
Is one of the most dangerous cities in the world outside of a war zone.
Yeah.
According to some of the
FBI
research,
statistics, all that stuff, yeah.
And so I had made mention about that because I had a situation the very first day.
Right. As we were traveling in the mountains, we stopped at Lake Jehoa, which is in the middle of the country.
Beautiful.
And they have these little restaurants all lined up right on the side of the lake.
And when you say restaurants, there are little shacks, right?
Right, yeah, it's all open air. It's got a roof, and they have a deep fryer.
The restaurants, what we see in America, nothing compared to what
right. It's like just an open air.
Like here in America, be like a Mon Pa place.
Right, exactly. Okay. And then so we decided to stop there because it's probably about a 4-hour drive out of the mountains, and stopped to eat.
And then we order some tilapia, and that tilapia fish was
amazing,
awesome.
Yep.
It was amazing. And you requested to get the fillets because there's no bones, and I said, hey,
looking at you,
might as well go ahead and get it. And so we did that. And this is my first day. Keep in mind, this is my first day, so it'll be my first meal in Honduras.
Yep.
And it was an excellent meal. And so our translator, Brother Harry, knows just a little bit of English. He knows enough, but just a little bit. And so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the perspective of danger. And danger is a perspective, and this is what I mean by that. I mean, for instance, gang danger is people say, oh, they're gangs and it's dangerous. Sure, but which is more dangerous? Gangs running around in a city or political danger, as in spreading propaganda and deceit around the nation and saying this and that and this and that, which is, even in our nation, which is more dangerous. So it's a really perspective. So what we have to do then, we have to develop a principle, and the principle should be the safest place for me to be is in the perfect will of God, not in some bunker somewhere, not hiding in my house because I'm afraid of protests or whatever's going on in America or whatever's going on in Honduras or Africa. The safest place for me to be is in the center of God's perfect will.
Right.
And if it means I'm in Honduras at Lake Jehovah, then I'm in the center of God's perfect will, then I'm in the safest place, right? Regardless how dangerous it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can get killed out here in a car right outside your house.
So that was what we're established.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the principle established. So danger is a perspective. But having been told we were in a dangerous area, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? Because when you pull in, that's a new thing too. I didn't say. When you come into the airport, there are men and women who are in uniform, bulletproof vest, and who have their assault weapons, and they're loaded. And everywhere you go, we went to the pharmacia, and there was a gentleman outside. Every bank,
restaurant,
every restaurant, station, Pizza Hut, everything,
our hotel.
Everybody had a guard.
Armed guards.
Yep. Everywhere. Okay. So we're in this beautiful lake, and we're eating our tilapia. And I noticed a gentleman, a young man, and he has I believe it was a 1911. Good? A 1911 handgun with him. And it looked more like a 45, 1911, okay? Very popular gun. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. I mean, because I have not been told anything about concealed carry. Haven't been told anything about that. And so I see him setting the table kind of close to us, and he's watching us. And I'm just, I got my back against the wall. I'm thinking, okay, this could be maybe a little dangerous. I don't know what's going to happen here because we stick out like sore thumbs. And Brother Harry goes out of the restaurant, he's moving the vehicle, and all of a sudden this gentleman gets up, and he starts pointing at me. And I'm thinking, did I give him a bad look? All these thoughts are in my mind. I'm thinking, did I do something out of culture? Did I offend him?
Yeah.
And he comes to me and he has this gun hanging out of his jeans, and I'm thinking, he's going to rob me? What's going on? Harry's not here. Translator's not here. Brandon.
I'm looking at the lake.
He has no idea. His back's turned, and I'm thinking to myself, what do I do here? And all of a sudden, he starts pointing. He comes close and he begins to speak Spanish, and of course, I'm not able to understand what he's saying. And my heart begins to race, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. And then he points at the table toward the hot sauce. And that's all he was wanting was hot sauce. And I'm thinking, I'm about to give him my wallet with all of my money in it, my passport and everything, and all he was wanting was hot sauce. So for me, that was
your first kind of encounter
with a local, and
fear in your mind too.
Right. So that's kind of how it started off. And so I had to talk, and thank God for Harry. Harry's amazing.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation. I was able to understand a little bit what he was saying. And he was saying, "Oh, don't worry." He started laughing it off. Like, hey, he thought it was the funniest thing. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I actually come from a rough neighborhood to begin with. So I'm kind of used to this dynamic. So Harry's like, everything's good. Don't worry. All's fine. So we got in that conversation. We talked. And now we're going up to the mountains.
La Esperanza.
Thank you.
Yep.